I got a proposition for you boys. Grab a seat and let's talk some prop bets for UFC 301. I promise to run a few bets by your guys' way that will carry some value. Again, UFC 301 taking place this upcoming Saturday. A lot of people feel that Steve Erceg shouldn't have got this opportunity, but if you really dive into the flyweight division, there wasn't an overwhelming amount of options for Pantoja. Pantoja wants to defend the belt, and I don't know, man, this dude Erceg, he looks good when he's in the octagon. I know he's only been in there 3 times, but he's looked pretty good. Even in the fights where he wasn't getting finishes, the way he's moving in there, he seems to be in complete control. Now, this is a major step up in competition, but if you guys didn't catch my full prediction video for the card, I did jump over to the Erceg side of things. Some other notable fighters that got title fights very quickly after joining the UFC. How about Anderson Silva, just 1 fight, knocked out Chris Lieben, then got that title shot. Rampage just with 1 fight. Lesnar with 2 fights. In fact, Lesnar was 1-1, right? He bounced back after the mere submission with the Heath Herrig victory. And then he got that title shot against Randy Couture. Holly Holm was quick to get one. How can we not mention Alex Pereira? Notable mentions for Joanna Jędrzejczyk as well. Now, every fighter I just listed, they all won their fights. So even though they got those quick title shots, they all were victorious. Michael Chandler was a fighter who fought for the vacant lightweight title after just 1 fight in the UFC after knocking out Dan Hooker. Now, he came up short in his attempt, but note that a lot of these fighters that get these quick opportunities, they got something going for themselves there. So just wanted to give you some background on the card. Not that I haven't already, but we're going to stop at a few of these fights, and we're going to talk about some value that I see for some specific method of victory, some over-unders, and all that type of stuff. We'll not hold you guys up any longer. We're going to jump into the first fight that I want to talk about, but real quick, if you can, just like this video, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. I got all my social media there listed below. If you can give me a follow, the content is always coming at you guys. I highly appreciate you guys. And shout out to my new partners over at BETUS. Nobody's doing the match bonuses like they are, so check the link in the description. If you guys make a deposit through that, you guys got a serious match bonus waiting for you, 125% match there. And if you guys do sign up through that, reach out to me. I got a gift for you guys. All right, so highly appreciate all you guys. Like this video, and let's jump into the first fight we're talking about here.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
The first fight I want to talk about is indeed the first fight of the event, taking place in the flyweight division. Alessandro Costa taking on Kevin Borjas. I already seen a lot of you guys give me heat for my Borjas pick. You guys know I slightly leaned his way, but I liked what I've seen from him. And as we head over to the prop that I'm going to be talking about here, I just want to circle back to Kevin Borjas's last 2 fights. Okay, first and foremost, the victory that he had on Dana White's Contender Series was over Victor Diaz. He's a fighter that is highly respected over at America Top Team, has some serious grappling skills, some serious submission skills. Borjas was able to defend down on the mat and eventually stuff takedowns and keep that fight standing. And I think he could do something similar here against Costa, who, even though Costa is maybe a more well-rounded fighter than a Victor Diaz, I would say that. Really, Alessandro Costa's main threat, or his main way of finishing fights, have been via submission. I think Kevin Borjas can avoid that sub. Also, Borjas has never been finished via strikes. He seems to be pretty durable. This guy could take a shot, and I don't know if Costa's going to find a finish that way either. I see this fight going to a decision. Now, it's going to be a close fight. It's going to be tough with the Brazilian crowd rooting their boy on and whatnot. But like I said, I think that Borjas can edge this fight out with his volume. I like what I've seen from him there. But we're talking about the over 2.5 rounds. In fact, you could even target this fight to go the distance, but I would say over the 2.5, which you can catch on BetUS right now at pick'em odds at -115. And I like the value there. I favor this fight to go to a decision. Now, if this fight makes it to the 2.5 round mark, if you were to say to yourself at that point, we're speculating in advance. If you were to say to yourself, you're not really too worried about the half of the third round, the second half of the third round there, as far as a finish happening, you feel pretty comfortable at that point. It's going to cruise to a decision. Why not take the extra value and target that plus 120? I feel this fight goes to a decision. So I'm not even too worried about the second half of the third round. I would actually just target that plus 120 for the fight to go the distance, flat out. Take that extra value there, in my opinion, if that's a bet that you like. Let's stick around in the flyweight division, but we're headed over to the women's side of things. We got Dione Barbosa taking on Ernesta Caracate. Both women making their UFC debuts after impressive performances on Dana White's Contender Series this past season. Different styles in their game. Barbosa, definitely more of a proven grappler. She's an Olympic caliber judo player, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. Ernesta, a fighter that really has some striking skills, and we need to see more from her down in the mat. She hasn't been tested there too much, and you guys know, if you caught my full prediction video, I do see an edge for Barbosa to get a sub here. Let me reiterate, Barbosa, even though she's 6-2, it doesn't seem like the most impressive record. Her 2 losses coming by way of very respectable opponents, and I'll run those names for you real quick, because I do think that Barbosa is a fighter that has some good upside. Jenna Bishop, who is now fighting over at the PFL, she's undefeated, and she'll be taking on Tayla Santos, the ex-UFC title challenger. And Jenna Bishop, she's up there in age, but still, she's not a slouch. And then you also take a look at the loss, which was against Josiane Nunez. She was knocked out by her, but Nunez is the real deal. So this is a step up for Caracate. I feel like Caracate hasn't been fighting as high level of talent, and I do believe that Caracate won't use her length as well as she should in this fight. And I think that Barbosa will have opportunities to get this fight down to the mat. I think she could find a sub here. I really do. Barbosa to win via submission, you could find lines as high as plus 225. Okay. Now, you could also target Barbosa just to win inside the distance, which the line's not going to be as juicy as a plus 225. I would rather stay with the specific submission pick there, because that's really her bread and butter. I mean, there is, of course, the element possibly that she flattens her out and TKOs her or something like that. But I mean, she's looking for subs when she's down on the mat. You saw the way she pulled off the sub on DWCS. It was very impressive. She knows what she's doing down there, and I think that there's a very likely scenario that happens. And with a line like that, I mean, it's not really a bad choice to target something like that if you feel that's something that you like.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Jean Silva is taking on William Gomis. Both these fighters have had a pleasant start to their careers. Now, William Gomis, a little bit more established. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Jean Silva, just 1-0. Maybe you can really say 0.5-0 or 0.5-0, even if that, maybe a 0.2-0. I mean, the victory that he just had over Weston Wilson, you guys know how I feel about Weston Wilson. Don't believe he was ever a UFC caliber fighter. He did get him out of there in the first round, but it seemed like it took a long time, even though it was in the first round there. But Jean Silva has some real potential. William Gomis is a very talented fighter. I like how he looks standing. I like his athleticism, and he has shown to be somewhat of a fight finisher himself with 7 KOs out of his 13 victories, and Jean Silva with 9 KOs out of his 12 victories. But I'm actually going the other way here. When you take a look back at William Gomis's prior 2 victories before his last, yes, he did just knock out Yanis Gimori. Not so high on him there. But before that, he goes to a decision against Francis Marshall and Jarno Irens, more talented fighters. And Jean Silva, I believe he's a step above Yanis. I think he's more of a Francis Marshall, Jarno Irens type of fighter. And I have a feeling that the fight will play out in similar fashion, where William will maybe be respecting his power, coming back at him a little bit more so. And William will be using his athleticism and footwork to try to outpoint him, if you will. And Jean Silva too. Yes, he did just knock out Weston Wilson, and he does have fight-ending power. But remember, on Dana White's Contender Series, he did go to a decision against Kevin Vallejos, and I could see this fight playing out similar in that sense, where these guys are putting on a fun fight for the fans and they're throwing a little here and there, but it does end up cruising to a decision. And I did pick William Gomis to win the fight, but again, it's tough to go with these underdogs in Brazil if it goes to the judges' scorecards. But I like what I've seen from Gomis on tape, and I'm not really. I don't want to overvalue I don't want to overvalue the Brazilian crowd. I really tried to base it more off tape. You guys know, man, with the judges' scorecards, you can never really predict what they're going to do in closer type of fights anyway. But I think Gomis is the more talented fighter. I think the ceiling's higher on him as well. And with that being said, you can get this fight to go the distance at -150. I know it's not the most juicy line, but I think it's worth mentioning because I really feel this fight's going to go to a decision, or I feel pretty strongly this fight will go to a decision. So the juice is somewhat worth the squeeze there. So we're talking about that one. Without a doubt, one of the most exciting fights penciled in on this card. Elvis Brenner taking on Miktebek Orolbay. Miktebek with that big UFC debut fight, where he defeated a fighter in Uros Medic, who's a really promising fighter in himself. Miktebek went the wrestling route in that fight, but you break down tape on him before he entered the UFC, and he's a well-rounded fighter. We've seen him land some nasty knockouts. There was one that really came to mind where he landed a beautiful uppercut knockout. So he's a well-rounded fighter, and he kind of has an aura around him. It's a little bit reminiscent to like a Khamzat Chimaev. Maybe not in the same level because he does have one loss, even though it's a very respectable loss that went to a decision. But he kind of has that stigma a little bit, you know. Just a well-rounded, dangerous type of dude, but he needs to prove a lot more. Elvis Brenner, a fighter that's been overlooked as of recently, but he's really started to show up, and he's carved out a nice little name for himself in the game right now. And he's a dangerous fighter. There's a fight that really pops up in all our minds, I think, when we see this matchup, and that's the Guram Kutateladze fight. That's where a fight where Guram was a big favorite. He's a fighter that's very much respected and had a lot of hype around him, and Guram put a beating on Elvis Brenner early, but eventually Brenner, he weathered the storm, and eventually he ended up breaking him, right? And he got that finish there in the third round, late in the third round. So that fight's just a little reminiscent because I'm curious if Brenner could kind of replicate something similar to what he did there, where maybe Orolbay's bringing the fight to him, pushing the pressure on him, and Elvis Brenner's weathering the storm. But I will say this, both fighters are fight finishers, okay? Understand that right now. Both fighters are fight finishers. Only one of Brenner's victories have gone to a decision. Only one of Miktebek's victories have gone to a decision. So I understand they're both fight finishers, but I think that both fighters are extremely durable. Breaking down tape on them this week, I mean, I see these guys take flush strikes to the dome, and they eat it like it's nothing. And I'm favoring this fight going to a decision. I think that they might really go at it, and they might land some big shots on each other. But actually, I do feel that Orolbay's wrestling will come into play, and they could burn some clock with the wrestling there. Orolbay will burn some clock with the wrestling, even though they will have moments where they engage. But the durability on both these guys is very high. It's basically pick-em odds for this fight to go to the distance, and I'm favoring that. At pick-em odds, I think there's some value there, and I favor it more likely to happen than us seeing a knockout. These guys got big old melons, and they could eat some shots. In the light heavyweight division, we got Anthony Smith taking on Vitor. I want to call him Vitor the Phenom Petrino. A shout out to Vitor Belfort there. I think that would be a cool little tip of the hat if he kind of took that nickname over. I don't know why. I feel like Vitor Petrino is a phenom. This dude's going to be a long-time UFC light heavyweight fighter. Time will tell if he ever makes a run at the title, but he has some really promising skills. Yeah, he has power. He can knock you out, but I've talked about it. This guy's a well-rounded fighter. He has good grappling, good cardio. You mix it all together, and he's going to be a problem for many in the division, especially when you take into consideration he's just 26 years old, and he'll continue to sharpen up his skills. Now, he hasn't been getting as many knockouts as maybe some of us expected him to after getting signed off that huge knockout victory on Dana White's Contender Series, where he knocked out Rodolfo Bellato, a very respectable opponent. Just one knockout in his first 4 fights in the UFC. And just because some of the matchups that he had, they were kind of favorable matchups to land a knockout. We've seen a lot of those fighters get knocked out before, but he had a submission victory, a decision victory, another decision victory, and he did have that one big knockout over Modestas Bukauskas. Now, I am definitely in favor of us seeing a knockout here. Anthony Smith, you break down tape on him, you watch his recent fights as he has aged, his defensive skills have slowed down, his durability, you would have to say his durability slowed down as well. I mean, I know he's a tough dude. I mean, you remember when Teixeira had his teeth all over the canvas and he's still hanging in there. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from his toughness, but the durability is going to continue to drop. He's getting up there in age. The defensive skills are slowing down. I think that Vitor Petrino is going to land a knockout shot in this fight. Now, I was trying to find something that was worth value, and really one line that kind of stood out to me where I think I see some good value kind of targeting that finish, and you get some other methods of victory. Maybe he pulls off a sub. Maybe somehow Anthony Smith pulls off a submission or something like that. But for this fight, not to start the third round, for the third round to never happen, you can get that at even odds right now. I've seen that type of line out there, and I think that there's some value there. I think that fight will most likely end within the first 2 rounds, if not the first round, especially if Petrino goes out there with the crowd roaring and just looks to make a big statement. He can go out there and he can knock Anthony Smith out. All right, guys, that's the proposition for UFC 301. I hope you guys found this video of use to you. I hope that there's at least 1 or 2 bets that I mentioned that you think there's some value on them, and you guys target them and you cash on them. Okay, tell me which ones you guys liked, which ones you guys aren't really feeling, you think that maybe I'm off on. And while you're there, if you guys can comment below a prop bet for this card that you're liking, that you see some serious value, comment that below. I'm always checking the comments. You guys know that. So I like to see some feedback there and see if maybe one of you guys can give me a winner. Now, remember, we are powered by BetUS. Got the link in the description of this video if you're looking to sign up to a new sportsbook. Please do that through that link there, and you guys will get a nice old 125% match bonus. So just letting you guys know about that, reminding you guys about that. And shoot, what else? I hope you guys are following me on social media so I can keep up with you guys leading up to this Saturday. Filming this late Thursday night, so I love to keep in touch with you guys through specifically Instagram, man. I'm always on there, got the story going and whatnot, and I love to see your guys' feedback on my posts and my stories and all that. So hopefully you guys are following me on Instagram and Twitter. It's below, and I'll go watch the end of this game. We got the Knicks and the 76ers going over here. What is this, game 5? This is what, 3-2? No, game 6 here. Philly's trying to push it to 3-3, and then we get the tiebreaker back in New York. So you guys know the refs will probably try to push for a big old game 7 over there in Madison Square Garden. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see how it goes. Knicks down 5 right now in the third quarter. I think they blew a 22-point lead. All right, guys. So yeah, it's been crazy. We got NHL bets going every night, NBA bets. The teller has been deep in the lab over here, but you guys know when it's all said and done, it's all about the MMA. All right, guys. So one last thing, I know that I said in the past that I'll be doing the prop edition videos for more of the big events. Scratch that. You guys can expect this for every single event, and they'll come out typically Wednesday to Thursday or whatnot, Wednesday to Friday, but most likely Wednesday, Thursday. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your week. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.